JRPGs are probably best known among non-fans for their tropes. Get a bunch of angsty teenagers together, some of whom are probably amnesiacs or divinely chosen. Send them out on a 100-hour trawl through an anime-inspired fantasy world where monsters can be ground into liquid gold and experience, and they might just kill God. Clair Obscur's Expedition 33's cast is mostly 30-somethings on a doom mission to save the world from a paintbrush-wielding spectre turning everyone into smoke and warping the Eiffel Tower with evil magic. Two things are inarguable about Clair Obscur. It's a flavorfully different sort of JRPG and an extremely French one at that. In fact, the plot setup is so convoluted, it's hard to explain concisely. Every year, a mysterious figure called the Paintress marks a giant tower with an increasingly low number, and everyone whose age is that number dies. She just hit 33, and Fantasy France has been sending expeditions to the tower to figure out what's going on, but none of them have returned. You play as the latest of these squads, with most party members in the apparent final year of their life. It's a somber tale of swashbuckling and loss, with lots of surprises along the way. And although I enjoyed the plot well, it stands out because of its performance capture and acting.
Lucien died to save me.
Clair Obscur oozes style, and the voiceover provided by the likes of Andy Serkis and Jennifer English, who you might know as Baldur's Gate Shadowheart, adds a lot of punch to its lengthy cinematics. That flair is all over the game, and though its splashy combat UI isn't quite as extravagant as Persona or Metaphor ReFantasio, it's clearly taking notes from those games' eyes for spectacle. Animations are bombastic, QTEs are punchy, and it's all very tactile and satisfying in a way that reminds me more of action RPGs than its turn-based contemporaries. That probably has something to do with the game's real-time elements, which are all over its spell-slinging brawls, though these are admittedly where the game lost me pretty quick. The broad strokes of a fight in Clair Obscur are familiar. You have party members outfitted with plundered gear, unique spells and character-specific abilities, and you have to manage their mana and health with potions as you take on enemies in between checkpoints. You also have a gun that can be used in real-time free aim attacks, which cost mana but can discover weak points on enemies. For instance, one monster is a deep sea diver who lugs around a naval mine. Shoot the mine in free aim and it blows up, denying him one of his abilities and doing massive damage to every baddie on screen. When an enemy attacks you though, you need to dodge or parry them. Dodges are the easier of the two and prevent you from taking damage, but parry and you'll get back mana and a chance to counter attack for free. Those sort of mechanics have been toyed with before in games like Mario and Luigi's RPGs, but whereas in those games they feel like a little reward for knowing an encounter well. In Clair Obscur, dodges and parries are the crux of the action. If you allow yourself to get hit more than a few times, your party is toast. These attacks aren't easy to dodge either. Some make use of gratuitous slow motion, others don't, and the game slowly introduces new attacks which must be jumped over, and other attacks still must be countered with a different button. It feels like the game is deliberately trying to trip you up sometimes, and when some of its boss fights drag into multiple phases over dozens of minutes, often introducing a new attack pattern right at the end, losing party members to a handful of failed dodges and getting sent back to the start is a drag. Git Gud or something along those lines is an argument I'd hear out for a lot of games, but the trial and error rote memorization needed to get to the end credits in Clair Obscur frustrated me, not just because it was difficult, but because it drowned out the game's fantastic turn-based core. Character playstyles are radically different from one another. Monoko plays a bit like Final Fantasy's Blue Mage, collecting enemy attacks and empowering them at the whim of a constantly spinning wheel, while Mayel is a stance dancing fencer who struggles to stay on a fleeting virtuoso stance that triples her damage. I grew attached to the game's cast and struggled to choose my party of 3 because I found each character so fun. But as much as I tried to line up different status effect combos and outfit my team with different passives to complement their strengths, the game never gave me much feedback. It's easy enough to get your party dishing out 9,999 damage regularly, the cap for most of the game, and while I struggled on nearly every boss fight, I never overcame them because I adjusted my strategy. I always won because I memorized their animations and parried at the right moment every time. The real-time half doesn't completely undermine the turn-based half, and I see potential in this system. It was rewarding to unlock new strategies as my parries became more consistent and I was flooded with more mana than I knew how to spend. But because the game punishes a missed dodge so harshly, it never felt worth my time to persist through a fight I was losing. I could reliably take on every boss expecting to lose a few times, use those losses to memorize their attacks and then win without any sweat. The game seemed uninterested in my build altogether, sometimes feeling more like a rhythm game with a JRPG awkwardly stapled onto it. Clair Obscur builds itself on its Steam page as an evolution of the JRPG, but beyond its surreal world and changes to combat, it's mostly business as usual, albeit streamlined. Exploration is split between a sprawling open world and smaller, self-contained zones, and enemies slowly patrol your path to the nearest objective, waiting to be trounced. These encounters can be safely avoided for the most part, though you're likely to fall behind on levels if you avoid everything. That said, there's hardly a grind in this game, partially because there's no random encounters and partially because it's astoundingly short for a JRPG, clocking in around 20 hours. I imagine whether that's a good or bad thing depends on your work schedule and the size of your backlog, but I found it refreshingly fast-paced and lean. The streamlining continues in the world of inventory and party management. That is to say, there barely is any. Instead of buying or looting potions, you have a limited supply which replenishes each checkpoint. You slowly accrue weapons which scale with different stats and passive granting pictos, each of which is easily swapped and reallocated between fights. It's all frictionless and slight, with the emphasis staying on the battles and the story cutscenes. Had the game been longer, I might have wanted more, but the credits rolled before I could get antsy. That leaves me in a tough spot with Clair Obscur. Its world and characters charm me, from the big goofy balloon man flying my party around Not France to the tragic and convoluted story of the Paintress. It's all strange and arresting, really standing out in a sea of anime teenagers getting their usual deicide in. The score ping-ponged between swelling orchestras, roaring electric guitars and 80s pop, and every environment I explored was radically different from the last. I feel like I should be chomping at the bit for another adventure in this world, but the majority of my time in it was spent wrestling with its battle mechanics, undermined by real-time additions that feel like solutions in search of a problem. My affinity for Expedition 33 was drowned out by my exhaustion I felt keeping them alive, and even as short as the game is, I sighed a breath of relief when it was finally over.